Okay, sir.
They're on.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start this meeting. Do I have a motion to recess into close meeting?
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Sanchez.
I second.
Second by Mr. Guerra. All those in favor? Aye. We're gonna go into
Recess to executive session pursuant to Government Code 551.071 to consider litigation matters in connection with the city.
Okay, we need to call our meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to do the call?
Yes.
Who's in the read the call first.
Yes. Let me read it. Okay, notice of joint executive session of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville and Public Utilities Board. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene an executive session with the Brownsville Public Utilities Board on Monday, December 11, 2006 at 4:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Administration Building located at 1425 Robin Hood Drive, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Executive session item A, discussion pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding existing litigation styled Golden Spread versus City of Brownsville.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we're on executive session.
Motion. We have first and we have a second.
Second.
Going to executive.
No. Okay, we're gonna reconvene meeting. There was no action taken in the executive session. We're going to item number 2, General Manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one financial report, please read.
Okay. The brief version.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mayor, my name is Chandler Garcia. I'm the CFO for Brownsville PUB, and I will be going over the October performance report. All in all, October being the first month, you'll see that the October figures reflect the year-to-date figures. We had overall adjusted gross revenues of $9,983,657. This is after having received operating revenues of $13.5 million, wholesale revenues of almost $1 million. Other revenues from other revenues $467,000, interest $360,000, and other non-operating revenues $103,000. We get to the adjusted gross revenues. As y'all know, we back out fuel and energy expense, wholesale energy expense, and the southmost allocations to the GTP. O&M expense total to $2.8 million for October. Debt service $1.9 million for total requirements of $4.7 million. Our balance available to the surplus is $4 million, which comprises of $3.4 million going to PUB and $535,222 to the city after backing out COD usage.
The city usage was 383?
City usage was $383,000 during 1 month.
Sounds okay. I got to go back and check my notes, but I think that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Sounds lower than, okay.
Perhaps.
Yeah, thanks.
Surplus, use of surplus money, $3.4 million. We're funding our reserve account and continue to fund CIP as well as the improvement fund surplus. This next few graphs will show the comparison between last year's actual budget and this year. You can see we did experience a little bit of loss in revenues, but because of lower energy costs and lower O&M expense, our net did end up being positively over the budgeted amounts as well as last year. $4 million surplus, as I mentioned. PUB receiving 3.5 and the city $500,000. This next few graphs show the contributions by electric, water, and wastewater. Consumption, we planned against last year. We were kind of comfortable to the October 2005 and electric. Same thing with water. Less than 20, 30,000 difference in gallons there. Wastewater as well, within the 350,000 range. CIP is moving right along. We are showing $2 million for 1 month in expenses and encumbrances. Our overall goal is $56 million. This time for October, we're 3.7%. And that is the financial summary for October.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Garcia? Okay, we're gonna go to item number 3. Yeah, I'm gonna stay up there. It says consideration approval of amended fiscal year 2007 capital improvement plan budget.
As y'all recall, we did receive some additional funding from the Tech Support Development Board last month, and what we're trying to do here, asking for consideration, is to appropriate in our improvement funds $1.9 million to begin cash flowing some of the contracts that have been awarded, and we'll continue to be on a reimbursement basis with the Tech Support Development Board. So we do need to increase our budget from $56 million to $58 million to reflect the additional funding of $1.9 million.
Reimbursable parts.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Guerra. Second by Mr. Sanchez, all those in favor? All those against, motion passes. All right, item number 4, Mr. Garcia again. Consideration, okay, go ahead.
Part of the funding that we did receive from the Tech Support Development Board included a $601,000 loan component. We will be closing on this loan in January. We do have to secure commission approval and a recommendation from our board to proceed with the issuance of junior lien debt. And what we're asking here is for authorization of a resolution to proceed with issuance of and sale of obligation, as well as handling any other matters as addressed in the resolution.
Any questions? Okay, motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Guerra. Second by Mr. Varela, all those in favor? Aye. All those against, motion passes. Item number 5. Consideration and approval of bid award of reimbursement to the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation for the oversizing of the proposed lift station for Brownsville Sports Park. Mrs. Gomez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Brownsville PUB requested the design and oversizing of the proposed lift station for the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation Sports Park project. The oversizing of the lift station will provide for future wastewater planning by providing for future wastewater relief of the existing system as proposed and as future projects and developments occur. The BCIC included the oversizing of the proposed lift station as an alternate bid item during the bidding process and have received the bids. Bids were received as follows. Robin and company and LNG concrete company. Robin Company pulled his bid based on incorrect item cost. And the contract, this contract is a construction manager at risk contract with a maximum of 15% allowable bid increase to include the contractor compensation for insurance, bonding, etc. And the additional cost of the oversizing is based on 9.58% increase of the submitted bid for a total BPUB contribution of $571,021.38. PUB staff recommends bid award and reimbursement to the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation for the oversizing of the proposed lift station at the Brownsville Sports Park for an amount not to exceed of $571,021.38.
So we'll be able to recoup that money that we're investing into it, right?
We're paying,
We're paying the oversize of that.
Yeah.
Oversizing.
But as people connect to it, you'll be able to recoup some of that money? Or?
No.
Now, Gigi, why Roban LLC is cheaper, $339?
They pulled it.
Well,
Oh, they
that's
pulled it?
why they pulled it, because they made a mistake on the bid, and that's why.
Okay, all right. And is this the one where the city's
I
paying?
wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, we might be able to do a reimbursement agreement.
Yeah, I think
I think before we do that, I think we got to look at it and see how we can do this, because there's going to be people, there's going to be a new developer around there connected to it. That I don't think they should get it for free.
Well,
I mean, we got to find a way to where we can recoup some of this, I think.
I'll see too if the sports complex can recover their part, because they're building.
Well, also the city's investment.
What?
Right.
Well,
both
yeah,
of
but
us.
by approving it doesn't preclude us from
No.
looking into other ways of
But we could do
trying
it
to get
with
that investment back.
with
We can do that.
But I want us to go in there, look, we're going to shell out cash, look for ways.
Okay. I think we
Don't just go in there and say we're going to do it and write it off.
can do it the way you said.
I would like to see
And this will benefit the city because they're
I think we can get them, both the city and us
They
reimbursed.
get 10 million already. Come on.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Well, the motion should be that the
With the condition
Y'all
of the
approve that with the condition that the staff try to find ways to determine ways to be able to get, to recover those costs.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Mr. Ahmad, second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor? Aye. All those against, motion passes. Item number 6. Consideration and approval of Cable Ventures, Inc., change order number 1 for installation of underground electric cable and conduit. Mr. McCann.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, on July 12, 2004, the board approved Cable Ventures as a vendor to install electrical cable and conduit. It was estimated to cost approximately $690,700 for 12 months. Vendor has submitted final invoices totaling $106,077.20 that have been inspected and approved by engineering staff for payment. At the end of July 2006, we had an available balance of $46,706, creating the need for a additional $59,370. Staff recommends this change order.
Any questions? If not, entertain motion. All those in favor? I mean, no, those in favor, because I have a motion, I'm sorry. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
A motion by Mr. Guerra.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor? All those against, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, consideration and approval of the renewal of BPUB's group health insurance. Mrs. Hernandez.
Chairman, members of the board, in October 2006, the renewal for PUB's group health insurance was initiated with the submission of a renewal proposal by Mutual Omaha. This is the third and final year of a 3-year option contract with the current provider, Mutual Omaha. The PUB contracted with Ken Withy & Associates to assist with negotiations. PUB's group health insurance is self-funded with Mutual Omaha as a third-party administrator. PUB pays Mutual Omaha a fee for administration of the health insurance, which includes reviewing and processing claims. PUB also pays Mutual Omaha a stop-loss premium for individual and aggregate maximum annual claims. The renewal proposal results in an 18.3% increase in administration fees and stop-loss premiums, resulting in an annual increase of $84,608 in the fixed costs. The administrative fees and stop-loss premiums are estimated at $547,362 for 2007 based on an enrollment of 520. The aggregate deductible rates are the self-funded portion of the PUB's group health insurance. The funds collected are used to pay for claims. The aggregate deductible rates, the self-funded portion, increased 19%, resulting in an annual increase of $754,134. The aggregate deductible rate contribution is estimated at $4,167,598 for 2007 based on an enrollment of 520. The increases are due to the large claim amounts in 2006 that resulted in the claims paid to exceed the contributions to the health insurance fund. The PUB will pay for the employee increase and 50% of the dependent increase, and the employee will pay for the remaining 50% of the dependent increase. The renewal rates will increase as indicated in the attachment titled 2007 PUB Group Insurance Rates. The increase is included in the 2006-2007 budget. In addition, there is no change in the benefit of the group health insurance plan. PUB staff recommends approval to renew PUB's group health insurance with Mutual Omaha for the contract period from January 1st, 2007 through December 31st, 2007, and implementation of the 2007 PUB group health insurance rates as outlined in attachment 3. Mr. Withy is here to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions for Mr. Withy? Members?
I think Leandro was trying to address any increase if we're okay in the budget.
Yes, John, as you mentioned, we did make provisions in our budget to accommodate increases, anticipated increases, and we can't cover the proposed fees under our O&M and CIP budget.
And this is the final year of this 3-year contract?
Yes.
So what's going to...
Yeah, when are you going to start working on proposals for next time?
I just talked to Mr. Withy. We're starting as soon as possible because we do have some changes we need to make. But it will go again. We'll be back probably the end of the year.
I mentioned it in the past, and obviously the group rates are always better when you have a larger group. And you know, I've never really got an answer as to whether or not the city and PUB might look into.
You know, I thought we were supposed to work on it. I remember the mayor brought that back up.
Way back when.
And I thought you guys were going to work on something to bring back to give us because it makes sense. The bigger, more people, the rate should be lower. Maybe not.
Yeah, and maybe it won't be good, but
But
without.
if we could see that, I know the mayor requested it a while back, and I think it's a good idea.
But I think also you're gonna be surprised when you have, because here it's all electrical and water. Over there you got public safety and you got employment. And that's gonna really skew the numbers.
Well, let's just see them.
We do compare our rates with the city, and the city also has a contract amount, I think, for the civil service. It's a little bit different.
Well, yeah, the civil service, yeah, that's different in the sense of the city's portion, but in and of itself, I don't think it would hinder trying to figure out whether or not it's a benefit or what the evaluation would be number-wise, cost and benefit.
How long would it take you to get something like that?
To look at that?
Yeah, to look at it and
I think for this year it'd be too late.
well, I'm not saying for this year, but just,
We can
let's put
work
a
on
time
that.
frame, because I know we asked you for, it's over a year now.
Yeah, we'll start working on it for next year's.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Ken Wethy. I'm the consultant for the VPUB. And Mr. Mayor, I do recall that conversation on the feasibility. What I'd like to suggest is it's a complex as far as the demographics, the makeup is gather some data for the makeup of the city, the age, sex, the number, our critical item
And that
here.
should be done, because we do it every, September, in addition to that, so that information should be fairly fresh, at least for an evaluative purpose.
Right, we can do an initial evaluation. The number of retirees is going to be a critical item, and we're going through our GASB 45
It may not be cost effective, but
I think it needs to be brought out, yay, nay, and have some facts to go on here. So.
And what would be great if we could get everybody, the city, the county, school district, port, and the university. That would be great.
How soon can you get that information, Mr. Withy? If the city, I'm sure you'll cooperate and give you what.
Oh, sure. Lucy, I would say
next week.
45 days, 60 days.
Well, you just tell us.
We get it on the other side of the first of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you very much. No, we need do I have a motion or any other? Motion by Mr. Ahmad. Second. Second by Mr. Rivera. Those in favor? Motion passed. Okay. Item number 8. Consideration and approval of resolution adopting amended rules of the Brownsville PUB board. Now,
Go table this, I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Yeah, 8 and 9.
well, let me tell you, I would like to vote on it tonight because this is, or, no we don't, right? If we table it, we can still do the.
I would like to table it, because I really.
I would second that, because I hadn't had a chance to read it afterwards.
It doesn't hinder 11, right, Councilman?
You can what?
We can, nothing.
Will it hinder number 11? It won't have any impact.
It won't have impact number 12, I'm sorry. If we table this,
I think,
that'll give you time to redo what we had talked about?
yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion table.
It's tied into number 9?
Hold on.
8 and 9.
Oh,
8 and 9.
hold on.
What we're talking about is an item on the agenda later on that provides for election of officers tonight. Okay, I think under the old rules, the election of officers is scheduled in January. So we could take up the election of officers tonight if we had a motion to
table these items.
well, no, I mean, we can table these and still go ahead if we have to have a motion asking to waive the rules, the election in January and have it held to that. We'd have to have that kind of a motion.
But we're going to table it anyway, so we can.
There's a motion.
Go ahead.
To the board, just for your consideration, when you look at page 2 of the proposed rules, under section Rule 5, which is the agenda, I know that we've had some requests to essentially get the agenda packages out earlier than getting them on the Friday before the Monday. The only consideration that we would ask for that is that you look at the timeline for adding agenda items. Thursday would make it very difficult, obviously, to get a complete package to you. It's been suggested that we try to get the agenda items to you, the board packages, by Wednesday. If you want a complete agenda package, you'd have to move that date back earlier in the week. And that's just something, when you read these rules for your consideration, I know we've had a couple of board members ask about moving that up. So I just make that comment to you, because the way it is here, it would not provide that lead time necessary to complete the packages and getting them to you at an earlier date.
The other thing on that same rule, when you're looking at that on the agenda, is number of members to put an item on there. We put a majority here, but it's up to the board if they want to leave it the same. Just give us some direction on that.
Right now, it's 2.
Yeah.
2, okay.
There's a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table item number 8. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Real. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Table number 9.
And do I have a motion to table item number 9?
Same motion.
Motion by Mr. Ahmad. Second? Second by Mr. Sanchez. All those in favor? Motion passes. Okay, we move on to item number 10. Consideration and approval to select an engineering firm for the Banco Morales Raw Water Storage Reservoir and Pumping Station.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we did the last meeting interview firms. I know the mayor requested copies of the proposals because he wasn't here. I think we got them to the mayor. We put together, you can disregard it or regard it however you want, kind of a staff evaluation of the firms based on our experience. We put some pros and cons that we know of each firm and have that for you. And then we went ahead and staff just ranked the firms how we saw it. This is no magic or science here. This is just what we did. And if you won't care to disregard it, that's fine. Fernando, you want to?
Ultimately, the staff can work with any of these 3 firms. They provided excellent service to the utility and other projects that we are doing work with, at least a couple of them at this point in time. So we would be comfortable with whatever your wishes are, but procedurally, because of the value of the project, the RFQ process is followed and they're presented to you, and ultimately you make the selection.
I didn't realize they made such a bad presentation.
Well, it's not bad. It's just of the 3.
I was going to say, who ranked the board presentation? Was it the board members?
No, we didn't. I mean, we did it based on the presentation we saw. This is not your
Who did this?
We did our staff.
Which staff?
Gigi, Fernando, and myself.
The 3 of you?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this grid, and obviously you're making a recommendation up to this meeting, this thing was determined by previous experience. That's where it seemed like everybody was separated by 5 points, right? Because you had a weight of 5, you scored a 1, 2, 3, so the difference in each one is 5, and then the grand total here, there's between first and second place is about 5 points. So that's
I think from staff perspective, ultimately what will deliver the job is experience, and the firm that was working with the most experience is the one that just completed a project adjacent to where this particular reservoir is going to be constructed. So that experience we weighted as the most important. The locality and experience with that locality on a similar project.
Yeah, but they have a bad workload right now, don't they?
Yes.
They're overworked.
That's the pros and cons that we put. The bigger firms.
Well, I was going to say the firm that got the highest, nothing against the firm or anything, but we've got them in several projects that are going on right now, big projects.
Right.
And
but they get into an agreement with us. They have to put a time frame on it, and they have to abide by it.
Right.
Well,
that's their problem, not ours.
Just from my point of view, I know there are several big projects that they're at, and I just don't feel that we should be, and it's just my opinion, be giving everything to a particular firm when there's other capable firms locally that can do it.
How do you get experience unless you get experience?
Yeah, but I think
that's right.
I think NRS overall gave a better presentation than all. Myself, I don't know what you guys think. Mayor, were you here?
No, that's why I had to base it on that, so you guys have to tell me on the presentation.
Why don't we do this so that we can accommodate the mayor also? Why don't we bring him back the first of the year and have him do another presentation? There's no hurry with it.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Milo, but you guys were here. As far as presentation goes, I'll go with whatever you all think, but I went through the material and Like Mr. Valadez says, I think that there's some merit to some of these points, and it's not a right or wrong. It's just one side.
I thought all the presentations were very good. It just seemed every time I would ask staff, because we really rely on y'all to give us the recommendation, and it just came back to they had done the one before on that site. They had the most experience, and I think that that experience goes a long way. I do agree with our chairman that the timing. Are they going to be able to do it in the same amount of time as this firm that had the second highest rating? Do you know that? Is that going to be an issue in your discussions with the workload?
But if they contract out for a certain amount of time, that's what they have to complete.
Well, one of the things that you're doing is you're selecting someone to negotiate with in the negotiation process. If you can't agree on timeline or those things, then you go on to the next one. This is not.
And maybe go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is just simply to say, okay, this is the firm that we would negotiate to come back to you with a contract and say, for these services, here's the price, here's the timeline, here's the scope, here's all of that.
And one could conceivably negotiate with the other if they.
They could team up. That's happened in the past. You've seen that, and you've asked them.
Which one? I'm trying to remember which one. Was it Ambiotech that talked about those storage bladders to help?
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea actually myself. They got the lowest rating. I like that.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we go with staff recommendations in our SCT here.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Villarreal, the second.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Sanchez, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
Nay.
Nay.
I said aye.
Oh, but it's ties 3-3.
Wait,
Different three.
well, how did you vote, Mayor?
I said nay, so it's a
Okay,
different.
3 nays and 1
So it doesn't pass.
Okay, do I make the motion for number 2? Vote for TCP.
You move.
They have the highest rating, next highest rating.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Ahmad.
That's a compliment.
I want to, yeah.
Do I have a second? Dies for lack of a second. Do I have any others?
Number 1, I guess.
Well,
I mean, the number 1 to vote on.
The motion is that you all,
Give staff.
order the staff to negotiate with them to bring to you all a contract.
Right.
That's what all these motions
Yeah, that's
are.
all this motion is, yeah. Okay, I'll make the last motion. I'll make a motion to give staff authority to go with Ambiotech.
okay, that's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Trevino. All those in favor?
Nay.
All those against? Okay, motion passes.
Which is the first one?
Ambiotech.
With 1 nay and the other ayes?
That's right.
Hey,
All right. How did you vote, Al?
He voted for it.
Okay, so it's 5-1.
Okay, we're gonna go with,
We're going third.
item number 11. Discussion regarding possible amendment to ordinance number 2005-983-C that modifies the current rate structure for the utilities. Mr. Capiano.
We've undertaken a review of our rates, rate design with the commission, city commission, and city staff. Last week, John and Eddie did make a presentation to the city commission concerning some potential alternatives for adjusting our rate design to accommodate some relief for some of our ratepayers. We do anticipate having a workshop tomorrow, and our plan tonight is to give you at least a briefing on what we're going to be discussing further tomorrow at the joint workshop between BPUB board and the city commission. What we've undertaken is some discussions to provide water and wastewater residential rate relief by adjusting some of the rate classes. Our overall objective, hopefully, will be to maintain some revenue neutrality in our funding, in our financing, and comply with bond covenants, as well as receive rating agency acceptance. I think last week the City Commission was briefed on some of the general bond covenants and charter requirements that kind of allude to some of the compliance we have to meet or stay with. We have done some internal calculations and we'll be providing some alternatives. We do need to follow up and seek financial advisor review and acceptance as well as our initial cost of service consultant, Black & V, in preparation for tomorrow's workshop. And then if we do arrive at some consensus or some approach that both the board and the commission can take, of course we'll follow up with some action. What I'll be going by here is giving you some general water and wastewater statistics, some options for adjusting our rates by blocks. By no means are some of these options being recommended at this time, and some are only for illustrative purposes. I'll highlight some of those that are for illustrative and some that are potential alternatives for consideration. On the water side, we do have 37,868 residential customers. And here again, the rate relief we're striving to achieve here is for residential customers. This chart provides a breakdown based on consumption levels of what makes up our ratepayer population. 54%, for example, consume 3,001 through 9,000 on top of the 17 first tier level. So you can see that most of
if tomorrow when you all come, can you also do another one from 10,000 from 3 to 10 and then 10 and up?
Yes. Yes.
I can't remember. Why did we go with 9?
That's a current rate.
Yeah.
I know that's a
If you recall, one of the comments was initially this was a discussion to put the rates back to October 1 of 2005 levels.
Right.
When we told you that if you did that, you would actually see rate increases, because what we did in October for the first time is we tiered the rates. Remember, prior to October 1 with the rate increases, if you use 1,000 gallons or 16,000 gallons, the price was the same. So when we presented it to you and said, be aware that the current tier breaks off this way.
Why do we tier it off at 9 versus 10?
That was when the consultant looked at the rates, what we were trying to accomplish. That was the recommendation on the tier rates. Essentially, a lot of times when you tier the rates, you're kind of looking at conservation rates where you try to provide an incentive to conserve. The least you use, the more favorable the rate.
Right.
The higher the consumption, the greater the rate on the big user. And so these were the cutoff recommendations based on our classes. And you can see, just based on this, that if you look at the way the rates were refigured in October 1, you essentially have 17 and 54% of customers benefiting by using less water than those, and where the rate classes are for PUB. Your bigger consumers are those over 16,000.
We'll consider a 10,000 threshold here.
I'm just trying to figure out how
we got here.
Well, and how we can, as part of the overall discussion to get what we want to get. So.
Okay, we can definitely also provide some supplementary information.
Maybe it's better to go to 8 or I don't know.
I mean, why not 5? Every 5,000.
It depends, how much of the ratepayer population you want to achieve. 50%, 45%, but we can have the supplemental information that gives you consumption at different levels, different intervals. What I'm going to be going over here are some options here. Of course, the first row here is our current rate. Here, recapping the blocks on the top row, 0 to 3,000, 3,001, 9,000. All of these scenarios now will follow with the blocks on top and then the alternatives in rows and individual rows. Our current rate structure for the first tier is 168, second tier 186, etc. up to 290 or 16,000, and then our non-residential at 192. One of the first options we're highlighting here for you is our goal or initial request was to roll back to October 2005 levels. As y'all recall, we did raise water rate by 8%. What we're trying to do here is affect the, as y'all saw, 54% was under 9,000, and then another good portion under 3,000, affecting the majority of our ratepayers here with a reduction in the first and second tier. This would result in a potential revenue shortfall of 411,000 with no additional adjustments to the upper tier or to the non-residential rates. if we do try to achieve revenue neutrality, one of the options here would be to move the third and fourth tier slightly up to accommodate the decreases in the first two tiers.
What are those two? What are those tiers that are going to be getting, or that are going to have to be making up that reduction in the?
Which tiers are? In this one scenario, we would apply it against the two upper tiers, the 9,001 to 16,000, and then over 16,000. Increasing.
Non-residential is the commercial?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the 9,001, I mean, what's the profile for that? I mean, what are we talking about here?
The number of customers?
No. The individual users.
Individual users? Well, you're talking about larger homes with more irrigation, more facilities internally that use a lot of water or just waste a lot of water. I mean, but it's kind of hard to profile it, but in terms of numbers, as y'all can see here, we're talking about 8,000. 8,010 customers between 9,001 and 16,000.
Is that also revenue? How is this going to affect with our bond covenants and all that stuff?
Our goal is to, of course, achieve a revenue neutral plan. If there is a loss of revenues, then obviously what I have to do based on the flow of funds, first, the gross revenues are dedicated to our O&M first and foremost, and then to our debt service. If I cannot meet the debt service coverage ratios of 1.25 after covering O&M, then I have to adjust O&M. We will have to adjust O&M downward. So it may have an operations maintenance budget impact to achieve the debt service coverage imposed on us through the bond covenants.
And do you think that's where we headed? Will we do that?
If that is an option that the board and the commission are willing to consider, we will do the best we can to adjust the budget. Of course, the last thing we want to do is affect warm bodies, but
okay, so I think the responsible thing to do would be to ask manager to come back with a plan that would be a little more specific as to how it's going to impact O&M, because you're going to have to lay off some people maybe, or do some cut someplace.
We'll address it from the less critical to the most critical, and as you all recall, we do.
I think this board needs to know that going in, if that's the option they exercise, don't you think?
We'll come back with
but I think the option that they're looking at is you're going to bank it up somewhere else. What I would like to know is how it's going to affect the people, because it's going to go to businesses. I'd like to send a flyer out on the bills saying that, you know.
For each one of these scenarios, we'll have a bill example.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think that we need to really contact the bond attorneys as soon as possible to find out how any of this will affect the bonds, because
but I think they were on that already, no?
The covenants that we bought those bonds under provide for those 3 rate increases that we did last year.
I saw that, Mr. Rodriguez, and I didn't see that those provisions were in that. Now, I didn't read it completely from beginning to end, but the portion that I saw dealing with that.
On page 22, there was a...
All 3?
Yes, it says 3%, 8%, and 5.5%.
But Mr. Mayor, the problem is that we agreed to do certain things before issuing the bonds.
I agree.
And my question was, how is this going to affect our bond covenants?
We need to have all those questions answered.
Well, then, and I understand that. What I'm saying is, the question is, how is it going to affect our bond covenants? I think we need to get the answers, and also we need to have the scenario of how it's going to affect the O&M. I mean, we're making decisions here that we may regret later on, and we're going to say, we're going to try to scramble and try and react, and I'd rather not do that. I think the responsible thing to do would be, like the Councilor says, contact the bond council. You all look at the O&M under that scenario, how it would be affected, and what decisions you will be forced to be making.
But as the chairman said, I thought that they were already involved. They may not have an answer yet, but I thought that they were already looking at it.
Is it?
But once you make an once you make a decision that adversely affects your budget, it affects everything.
I'm not disagreeing with you. we need to get as much information so that everybody makes an informed decision. We need to know what's going to be the effect of any.
Have we had contact with bond counsel?
I have not had contact with the bond counsel.
We can move on that.
But I can get involved with that tomorrow.
Table this.
There's no action.
There's no action to be done tonight. This is just a discussion for you all to, and this is a proposal.
Did I make a recommendation to contact the bond council?
No, but it's also this part of the workshop tomorrow.
We're going to go over it again tomorrow with this.
And we'll be going over with our FA, financial advisor, bond counsel. We want to make sure we at least I want to make sure our bond covenants are
Okay, so
and we have a balanced budget at the end of the day.
We're going to see this more tomorrow, so.
But is the city commission going to have a workshop tomorrow, or is it going to be an action item?
I don't have the agenda in front of me. I know it's a workshop.
I think it's just a workshop.
I don't know if there's an action. I can't recall.
Yeah,
But
it'll be too premature for an
I'm still of the same opinion as Mr. Mala. We can't jump until we absolutely know what impact it's going to have. And actually, the whole purpose of this is to figure out what might be the best way to do this versus just going back to last year's October 05. So.
Mr. Mayor, I'm glad we agree.
Finally.
There's going to be another cold front.
Option 2 will provide a revenue neutral plan.
I really don't think we need to go through any more options.
Yeah, we're going to see them again tomorrow, so.
But we really can't even say that until after we talk to the.
Yeah, let's do a cursory.
Please, let me do it.
Well, the only reason for that is because the city commission was very specific and actually discussed specifically what they wanted to see and what they wanted to do, so.
But they're going to be there tomorrow.
Right,
I don't think
but.
they're going to be there tomorrow on the board.
Well,
How many of the board members?
I'll be there.
So there's two not going to be there.
I'll be
The mayor
there.
has to be there.
I'll be
But
there.
the mayor agrees with us.
Yeah, I don't think that's why I put it off, I really requested that we put it off. As much as we want to do this, let's do this right so that it doesn't impact.
Okay, option 2, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay, it provides a revenue neutral plan by increasing the second 2 tiers. Option 3, here again, achieves revenue neutrality as well by adjusting only the last tier over 60,000. It's a significant increase going up from 290 to 422, but that's just one separate scenario. Option 4 would make up any revenue shortfalls through the non-residential rate class, raising it from 192 to 217. On the wastewater side, the general statistics here, we have 37,000.
Just one question. You didn't have an option including the last two rate tiers and commercial.
No, we
have that in there at all.
We don't, but we can if you also desire. And we need that feedback tonight or tomorrow as well. 37,867 wastewater customers. Right now, we do cap wastewater billings at 20,000 based on our most latest ordinance change. And we do bill based on 80% of water consumption. 96% of our customers use less than 20,000. A few options here for wastewater. The current rate, of course, is a straight 340 for both residential and non-residential. Option 1 here would be to roll back to all our wastewater customers, or residential customers, back to the October 2005 rate, or adjusted for the 5% increase. This would, in 2005, we also raised the cap at which we billed. As I mentioned, we stopped billing at 20,000. One of the things we would consider here in the various scenarios is to do away with that cap. And of course, that would give us additional monies when we bill customers that use over 20,000 wastewater.
One of the comments in the cost of service study was to eliminate the cap. When we did this October 1, we chose to eliminate it over time. We didn't propose eliminating the cap this last go around with the rates. We did increase it, and this essentially, one of the discussions before the City Commission was to actually look at removing the cap, which would only accelerate what we were planning to do anyway, but the cost of service study that was done, that was the basis for the October 1 rate increases, was to eliminate the cap.
And one of the reasons for the cap is to accommodate the large irrigation users. We understand, we recognize that some of it doesn't flow back, so it does make provisions. One of the things we do need to continue emphasizing is for large irrigation, or with people with large yards to install irrigation meters. In this case, we don't have any intentions of making money from any options, but if we do eliminate the cap and reduce rates by that 5%, we would see a little bit of a gain there. If we maintain the cap, where we continue limiting our billing at 20,000 and try to achieve, for example, a 3% rollback, we would net a negative revenue shortfall of 353,000. No change in the non-residential to make that up. If we go to the full 5% reduction and keep the cap, we're looking at a potential loss of 600,000. If we try to maintain some revenue neutrality here by affecting the non-residential user, we're looking at having an increase the non-residential rates by 11% or 36 cents. We are going to be proposing, or for consideration, illustrating alternative options. Right now, as I mentioned, the 340 applies to all residential classes. We could consider a two-tier wastewater billing method where we could have a 0 to 7,000 and then over 7,000. This would capture on the first tier 57% of our wastewater customers. And of course, we could address any relief based on this approach. If we were to maintain or apply the 5% rollback only to that first tier under 7,000 here again, and remove the cap. Our intention is not to make money from this, but for illustrative purposes here, if we remove the cap and combine that with a reduction to only that first tier, we would see a positive revenue impact. If we provide for that 5% reduction to the first tier and maintain the cap, we're looking at 430,000 potential loss. So you can see the variation there. To make up that loss, then if we have two options, either to leave the second tier loan at 340 or increase the non-residential. To make it up, make the shortfall up to the non-residential, we're looking at an 8% potential increase, going from 340 to 366. Another tier alternative would be based on 10,000 gallons, 0 to 10 over 10. That would capture even more of our ratepayers, 77% or 29,000. This type of approach here, if we apply 5% reduction to the first 10,000 type users, we're looking at a potential and remove the cap because we're collecting more from the cap. Anyway, we're could make a potential here revenue of 177,000. Moving into the scenarios with no cap, with a cap, then we could lose up to 513,000 if we extend that 5% reduction to the first tier, 0 to 10,000, and maintain the over 10,000 at 340. To make up such type of a loss here, we could either up the over 10,000, or like in this scenario, increase the non-residential rate increase. This would require a 9% increase to make up for that 513,000. Next steps, of course, we'll continue to modify our numbers, work with our financial advisor and bond counsel. Hopefully we'll get more feedback tomorrow, from the workshop, and then if the board and the commission so desire, then once we focus on some optimal scenarios, we'll proceed accordingly. We've also,
as long as
I'm sorry,
it's legal, and money indenture taken care of, and you all are prepared to handle whatever scenario we
Good. Another set of concerns or requests we've received from the Commission is to revisit, well, for the first one we just discussed about the 8%, 5%. The second one is to revisit the possibility of reducing the late penalty fee from 10% to 5%. Third one, to changing the receiving time for recording payments, and we're addressing that internally. And then the third one is for us to look at utilizing the fee we charge the city at 3% for processing garbage and EPA type fees and directing it to the project share. On the first, which you all recall, that was discussed during our budget process, reducing the late fee. We do stand to lose 1.7 million, going from 10% to 5%, and the revenues are shown here on a 60-20-20 basis, electric, water, and sewer. So water and sewer would suffer some good hits. Of course, we would look at maintaining a balanced budget if we revisit this one. The second, the last one, the 3%, we did collect about over $500,000 in freeze from the city for processing their billing. This, again, would be allocated 60-20-20 electric, water, and wastewater, so we would have to assess the budget impact on this. And on this one, we are awaiting legal counsel to render an opinion on what's best, how best to approach this one. One of the things that they mentioned to me, we don't want to dedicate these type of gross revenues, which are part of gross revenues, up front, since based on our bond covenants, we have to cover O&M first and debt service, and then any surplus for any other lawful means. So maybe an alternative to fund some share, provide some share funding after the fact, from surplus monies, after we met all of the flow of funds requirements imposed by the bond covenants. So this is another one we're looking at, and we'll probably seek further guidance from the board and the commission. And we're waiting to say legal counsel opinion. That covers that, right?
Just from my standpoint, if you combine all of these things, it's a significant impact to you.
Adverse impact.
Adverse. Just those are big hits. And again, I think you're looking at major costs to recover on that.
Okay. And again, tomorrow we do have a workshop with the city. All right, there's no action needed on this. We're going to move on to item number 12, election of board officers. I went ahead and put this on the agenda. I know it's customary to do it in January, but I think it's best in December for the incoming chair and vice chair and everybody else to start off in January, start off the year. So at this moment, I will entertain motions.
You say we have to make a motion to change?
First thing is we would have to make a motion to waive, to amend, to suspend the present rules that call for election in January and have an election.
Can we make them effective January? Just make the motion?
Yeah, you could, yes. But I mean, the rules now call for the election to be held in January. Somebody move that we suspend those portions of the rule that require the election in January for this year only, and proceed with the election of officers right now to take office in January. I think somebody make that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Guerra, second by Mr. Trevino. All those in favor? Motion passes. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain motions we'll start it from the bottom up, vote for secretary.
I make a motion to nominate Alfred Yellow.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Sanchez and seconded by Mr. Ahmad. All those in favor? Aye. All those against, motion passed. All right, Vice Chairman.
I make a motion to nominate Mr. Patricio Amada.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll ask that you withdraw that motion. I believe very strongly on following what was said by your predecessors and rotate the chairmanship. So I would like to withdraw that. Vice Chair.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, I thought it was chair.
So is that okay or not?
That's fine. I'll wake up.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Villarreal. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Now, Chairman.
As I said before this, I misunderstood. I strongly believe in rotating the chair and giving everybody the same opportunity. Based on that, I think the next one in line, based on seniority, and I think he's learned a lot in the past year, and I think he now knows how to work with people. Lately, he's shown to have the temperament, and I would like to nominate Robert Sanchez to the chair.
I thought you were talking about Mr. Trevino. Okay. Motion for Mr. Sanchez by Mr. Ahmad. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Ariel. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Good luck, Mr. Sanchez.
God help us.
I appreciate it. Gentlemen, I won't let y'all down. Thank you for the vote of confidence.
There you go. All right. We have one more.
We have an item on the agenda.
Oh, yeah. Well, hold on. We still have
one more.
As a consent item.
Well, before, can't we do the southmost also? It's part of this, the southmost region, I'm the chairman there, but.
No, you need to post that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
So
different.
we'll do it at a different date.
That's a different.
All right, the consent item agendas, does anybody have a?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Mr. Ahmad to approve consent item agendas. Second by Mr. Guerra, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes, and there's no public comments today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Guerra, second by Mr.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I just want you all to know that our firm is